And let's talk about more Curiosity Diva deck lists. We're going to talk about Hirana, a step towards the glimmer. As you may see, there's also a Hirana step towards the top here, because I thought I'd lump both of these deck list updates into one deck list update here. Hirana, a step towards the glimmer, is a new Elrig. It's a level 3 red Elrig with a constant ability of during your turn, Signy in your center Signy zone, get plus 3,000 power. Just in general, just during your turn they get that. The enter ability is draw a card and enter charge 1, which is always pretty nice. Its action once a game ability is you get to draw 2 cards and enter charge 2. At the end of your turn, put all the cards in your hand and your enter zone into the trash. So it's a use it or lose it situation. Let's talk about just this new Hirana in general. Hirana is not as bad as I originally thought, the new one, 2.0. But it is basically plays in a much more specific type of deck build than Hirana, a step towards the top. It's not to say that it's bad, it's just different. Hirana, a step towards the glimmer, is something that wants you to really aggro immediately, right? It wants you to assemble the pieces and go ham right away. I think the best thing that you could be doing with a Hirana step towards the glimmer, for example, is immediately using its once a game ability and following it up with your end result, which is going to be trying to really go to the top, right? You want to use this to basically go to the top immediately. Burn your opponent's enter for 3, which is an insane amount. Lock them out of the game so that way you can just finish them off with the last couple attacks. That's sort of where it excels. And because that, it can also play a little bit more aggressively than Hirana, a step towards the top. Hirana, a step towards the top, when you get yourself your recharge of 1 enter and drawing a card, you usually end your turn 3 with not doing everything in your power to do stuff, because you've got like your 1 enter short, or you just don't have the card that you need in order to get there, like a burning Deafening Inferno or something like that. Hirana, a step towards the glimmer, doesn't have those problems because it's able to just be such a flash in the pan. It can't win the long game, but it can do a pretty good early game aggro. So like I said, this deck is actually, it's your choice. If you want to be running Hirana, a step towards the top, you can. If you want to be running the Hirana step towards glimmer, you can. I will tell you the difference that I think you should be going with, depending on if you're deciding to go with Hirana, a step towards the top versus Hirana, a step towards the glimmer. And it's not much difference. It's just a very small amount of difference. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is, yes, you can run either one of those L-rigs and be perfectly fine with it. Following up, let's talk about the assists. You're going to be using the normal Akino combo of Akino Rock followed by Akino Bye-Bye. This is just so that you can get yourself an unequivocal removal. You'll want to potentially wait to use these on things that you have a difficult time removing with your red removal, but you'll want to go ahead and use this regardless. Moving right along into what we've got next here, our rays are going to be a Ray Lunar Blossom followed by a Ray Empty Blade. Now, you could swap this Lunar Blossom out for the Ray that draws 2, and for this one, you could swap this one for Absolute Ray, which is the one that costs 3 and just bounces, or actually bottoms, a Signy at attack phase timing into the opponent's deck. It puts it on the bottom of their deck. I would run Lunar Blossom and Empty Blade if I was running Hirana, a step towards the top. If I was not running Hirana, a step towards the top, and I was running a step towards the glimmer, I would be running Lunar Blossom and Absolute Zero. Again, like I said, you could do that draw 2. I would not use the draw 2 at all in my Hirana, a step towards the glimmer deck, but you could do it with Hirana, a step towards the top, since you're trying to probably get to turn 4 with that deck, whereas Hirana, a step towards glimmer, you're probably trying to get to turn 3 with it. Follow it up with Peace with Glory Glow. Like I said, you're probably using this on the opponent's turn, or you're probably using this on your turn 3 for Glory Glow, but that does not say that you can't use it on in the same step towards the top deck, you'll probably just need to wait till turn 4. We have some silver bullets here that'll be kind of nice to use with it. We're also going to go to the top, like we said. It's very good at removing the opponent's options. Again, if they do a Xeno cluster to stop the Lunar and the Empty Blade, making them discard several cards, then you're free to go to the top without repercussion. If they wait to do it on go to the top, cool. They've gotten 3 enter, right, and you've gotten free discard, and you still get to search your deck for your best card. Moving right along into our level 1s, we're going to start with the Ramels, Lightly Armed. This is just, whenever you're doing hyper aggro, this is just a super good card. This meta is actually quite soft to Ramels right now. If you would believe it, with all the X stuff. A lot of X stuff is power 2000 or power 3000. Same thing with actually the Deus Signes that they're doing at level 1. So your Ramel actually is pretty okay there. Then we're also running a full 4 set of the multicoloreds in this deck. And that's just so that way we can get ourselves two colors. We want to still have access to white. So that way we can still use our Akino Bye-Bye's ability. However, again, we're in an aggro deck, so it's not, the onus isn't really on doing it, because a lot of the times we're killing them before we want to use Akino Bye-Bye's ability. But against an aggro deck specifically, you might want to use Akino Bye-Bye's ability in order to extend the game just a little bit longer, so that way you can win the game. So that's where this comes in as a 4 of. Our other level 1s that we're doing is we're running 2 cargos. We do have a little bit of an enter burn package in here. This is a pretty good thing to turn on various things, aka your Phoenix if you need to, but more importantly, it's there to color screw. For greedy decks that are probably running 4 or sometimes even 8 of one source, you might be able to get them off of black, you might be able to get them off of white, you might be able to get them off of blue, depending on if you're dealing with a clap situation or you're dealing with a disrespect situation, and you might be able to sneak and win. That's where this kind of goes in the way. We got Celebres. They're just a very good life burst, especially in a very, very aggro deck. Plus the 5,000 power is nothing to sneeze at. And then we are running a full set of servants, because servants are important. Right, moving right along into our level 2s, we have Hera here. Hera, again, this entire main deck is red, so Hera will always go off. It is probably a better Lancelot than that, so you can swap them up if you want to run 4 Heras and 2 Lancelots. You really could. This is just whatever you decide to go with here. It's not really going to bite you in the butt, but sometimes you get in trouble with Hera, with it being that it has to target. So it will target X stuff. So it's really your call how you want to split it. The important thing is you're running basically 6 of these effects. Moving right along into our other level 2s, you'll see that we have Volcanics as a 4 of. This could be any of those vanillas that have a life burst that you might like. There's ones that you can pay 1 and vanish 15k or below, or I think 12k below. There's one where you can discard and you can vanish 12k or below, and there's one where you can pay you could just do this, right, with the 8,000 or less. I like this personally. If you really wanted to, I suppose you could fit a Morax in there as well. We do run a little bit of an enter burn package, but nothing to write home about, so I don't think it's super important. I'd rather have the 10,000 body to shore up against other aggro decks. Either way, this is your call. With an aggro deck, you kind of just want the best life burst that you can that also can double as removal. And then moving on to our level 3s, we start with 1 of Mars. This is, again, sort of how we're using the ability to get silver bullets with the go to the top. In this case, we'll be able to discard cards from our hand and gain Assassin. Again, it also enter burns, so that's kind of cool. Like I said, we're playing a little bit of an enter burn package. We're playing with 1 Phoenix. You might want to use this just in order to go, oh, you thought that I wasn't an enter burn deck. That's cute. I'm going to play Phoenix. I'm going to go to the top. You now have no enter out of having some amount of enter, and you are going to draw a card at the end of the turn. Cool to draw a card. Doesn't really matter a ton, but it's just there as a silver bullet to try to get around claps and disrespects. Then we're running 2 Rose Quartz. Something that I would consider is maybe taking out a Phoenix and adding in another Rose Quartz if you were running the Glimmer version of the deck, as you'll have more Enter to spare and you don't care too much about drawing a card. This is just a good top end for red in general, as well as it's just a team specific red thing. The fact that you can pay 2 Enter to get rid of power 12,000 or less is pretty rare in red. Normally you have to get Assassin to do that kind of thing. So this is quite strong, but it's not as strong as it used to be. So running 3 of or 2 of seems perfectly fine and right, but really the card that you're really adding to the deck that's new is this Diabride Natural Engagement Crystal, I believe is what it's called. It's a level 3, 12,000 power. Its life burst is pretty easy. Target one of your opponent's up Signy and you can vanish it, or you can draw a card. It's also got an auto once a turn that whenever a red Signy on your field is targeted by opponent's effect, your opponent has to put 1 card from their enter zone to their trash. Its enter effect is also that you can discard 1 card. You can look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You can add one of those cards to your hand and then put the rest in the trash. You're probably digging for a guard or you're digging for a removal spell. This was common with things like Devil Stinger, to basically just take cards that it's not super relevant to you and trash them, get something better. This is a very good effect in mid-range and aggro decks because you're not really looking for long-term card advantage. You're just looking for short-term. You're trying to win on that turn 4, sometimes turn 5, but mostly on that turn 4. The Enter Burn effect is also quite strong. Again, ties into the fact that we're running a little bit of an Enter Burn package here, but really this is more of a way to stop things like Shield or stop things like it doesn't really stop Shield too much, but it does stop Machina Binds. It can stop Lion Disrespect and Clap. It just makes combat math a lot harder for your opponents, and since you've got them on such a tight clock, it might be able to slip you in the win. And the last thing that we're doing is some spells. Got 2 Deafening Infernos. Still quite good. You're playing on team, so you'll be able to vanish 10,000 or less for just a red enter. This number could go up, and you could probably go down in Volcanics if you were to be running Glimmer. Just because, again, you have cards to waste, and you can just sort of throw away card advantage to get yourself to your turn 3 win. The last one that we're doing is Nobunaga. Nobunaga's just always been quite strong, being able to get double strike, double crush, and also be able to vanish your opponent's Signy's 8,000 or less again is always very strong ability. Plus the ability to be able to go to the top, grab your Nobunaga, and then just attack for massive amounts of damage that is difficult to stop with because of the Enter Burn on turn 3 is a signature of what No Limit can put out very easily. Another deck that you could be running with your Hirana deck, and this is, again, me just lumping things together. This is not a step towards the Glimmer deck. This is specifically a step towards the top deck. I'm also talking about how this deck has actually rised quite well in, I still think it's probably B tier, but it's rise quite well in the recent meta of being a mid-range Hirana deck. So basically, you guys should think about this. Mid-range decks, generally speaking, use some amount of 3 stops, right? Like one 3 stop to allow the game to go longer. But the 3 stops, which are white and blue, Clap and Disrespect, are so not aggressive, right? Those colors just don't add anything to the table that you usually need to bake in black or you need to bake in red. Generally speaking, you bake in black to allow your mid-range deck to have a clock. Hirana actually fits the bill on all of those things as well, with the upside of you don't need black to be the base of your clock. You can use red to be the base of your clock because it's the center L rig. You're still using your normal 3 stops with it, and then the black just helps with the redundancy aspect of it. Again, this deck has risen to being pretty high-end tier. Again, I put B tier as pretty high in the tier list. So I still think it's a very, very strong deck. It might even be A tier, to be honest with you. It is still a deck that's looking to win on turn 5, don't get me wrong. But the ability for this deck to go to turn 5 is actually very, very, very possible. So going into it, you're going to be using the Hirana step to the top. You're actually going to be skipping on the attacking Signy on your field to get the 2,000 power, which would be nice to have, to be honest with you. But it's not the worst ability to lose. Beginning the ability to draw a card and enter charge 1 is just always it's always very solid, no matter if you're talking about aggro or mid range. The once a game ability to do an extra damage just allows you to compact your Elrig deck more, so you have more just damage focused in the Elrig deck, allowing you to get more strikes in, which is overall very good. We're using Machina Smash and Machina Wing Slash, the normal ones that mid-range decks want to run. Specifically, Wing Slash really helps a lot here because it allows us to get back our Hakats very easily, as well as our Ramels, which we can then use to sort of put ourselves in a favorable situation. It also can get you back a level 1, and we have a variety of level 1s to choose from, being between Hakat, Ramel, and our Epitams, that we can get ourselves any enter that we might need to do. So this deck is kind of greedy when it comes to enter, but it works because of the redundancy on Machina Wing Slash, and to a lesser extent Machina Smash as well. And then our normal 3-stop, like I said, we're using Clap in this scenario. Why we're using Clap is mostly to gain access to Haket. Haket is a very, very top-end card that a lot of people just don't use for some reason. But in a deck where you are abusing it with Wing Slash, you can set up your deck 2 to 3 times per game, sometimes even 4. And when you've got that much power of filtering, you really chew through your deck and find the cards that you need at any point in time. Do you need something to mill your opponent out? Okay, cool, you find the Phalaris. Do you need something to push aggression? Cool, you found the Nobunaga. You know, it's like a lot of different ways to just filter through your deck at such a high rate that it is very, very strong in combo with those cards. So you do have enough enter that you can go ahead and you're going to be able to Madoka Clap pretty successfully. Again, Madoka Float also lets you dig very, very well. So I like those cards quite a bit in here. Now, as far as our Signies go, let's start at the level 1. We have a lot of things to sort of make it work. The first one is we got an X-Ax. This is just a multicolored. We needed more red and we needed more black. This does both. There's a world where you take out the Ramels and you put more X-Ax in. I don't like that. I like the 2 Ramels personally, but it's a world out there that totally exists very, very validly. You got the Hakets here. Again, the Hakets let you filter to the end of the world. You can combo this with Devil Stinger as well in order to make sure you are absolutely getting the cards that you're trying to look for. It's actually quite powerful. I would say this deck is very difficult to pilot, guys. You're going to need to play a lot of different matches with this type of deck. Once you've got it under you and you have the understanding of what this deck is trying to do and what you need for every scenario, and you just have that sort of like confidence in the deck, you find that Haket becomes an all-star. Just because it lets you fly through everything. Your other level 1s are the Ramels, like I was saying, quite strong. 1 Celebre, again, we just need some red and we need some life bursts. Celebre does the job. The Epitams being your main way of getting more blacks in here, as well as it being just a powerful life burst. And then your 4 Servant Sharps, again, staple. You'll always use Servant Sharp. Quite strong. I skipped over the pieces. So we've got Burning Curiosity as just another main deck way to get removal out. And again, you can stop you can stop some enter with this. There's not really any enter burn in this deck to speak of. So this might be just a tech way to occasionally get enter burn. There's also not really an exceed in this deck either. So you can feel free to exceed with this Burning Curiosity. It won't hurt you. If anything, it'll hinder your opponents. Plus, getting something to get out of the trash always is pretty good. You know, there's stuff like Steampunk and whatnot that like to come back. So you can do this, especially with Trigger Victory being so important. You can target something that they might want to trigger a victory, get it gone forever, and make them really dig to have to find something new. Moving on to our level 2s, we're going to be running 4 Lancelots. Again, a staple. It uses a colorless cost. This card would be so much worse if it had a red cost, but instead it's colorless. So you can go ahead and use any of the excess enter that you need to do. You do need to watch your enter in this deck. This is a pretty enter-greedy deck. Moving along into our other level 2s. We've got 4 Folklores here. It's just got a very strong life burst. It hasn't changed. Folklores, if anything, are probably underplayed right now due to the amount of X Assassin that's running around. getting hit with a full field of assassin against your opponent and being able to down 2 things is actually very, very, very good for you. Drawing a card to get yourself to a guard is also very good. This Hirana actually shouldn't be here. I'm not entirely sure how that happened, but I do know what it's supposed to be. It's this Deafening Inferno. It's supposed to be up by boop. There we go. So anyways, I should be more than that, but I don't know where the extra cards went to. Sometimes when you import into this deck list, it's not super, super, super great. Anyways, moving right along. Let's talk about the next things that we need to do. If we need to go ahead and just throw an extra thing in here, I think it's actually the Celebre. Something like that. There might be an extra card in here. Sorry about that. Going right into the... Oh, well, that's why. It's actually not supposed to be there. Hold on. Hold on, guys. Doing it live. Doing it live. I just was wrong because we have 19 and 1. It threw me off. The original deck list is fine. Let's talk about more level 2s and level 3s. So that's it with our level 2 selection slots. Let me just make sure that I'm not crazy here. Oh no, we're also running to Caesar. So the Caesar is a new card coming out where you're going to be able to pay black if there's 7 or more cards in your trash. This Signy gains the constant ability of when the Signy, if there's a Signy that's 5,000 power or lower in front of this, then this Signy gains Assassin until end of turn. It's just a good tech card, something to be worth using. Again, you will end up having, because you are using quite a bit of Enter, you will end up having the 7 in the trash pretty easily. Not to mention, you will be using Devil Stingers to sort of flow through your deck very quickly. Madoka Float also gets rid of 1. That'll help you narrow that down a bit more. So it's not too hard to get the 7. It's going to be tough to get it on turn 2 with this deck, but turn 3 onwards, you should be pretty much having it in the bag. Moving right along into our level 3s, we've got 2 Adamantha and 3 Kentokis. Now, if I could, I would want this personally to be 4 Kentokis, 1 Animantha, and it might even be better to just be 4 Kentokis and no Animantha. Animantha has a combo where you can play the Heket, set up your Animantha, and be able to get Assassin very easily. The problem is the deck is very Enter greedy, and because of that, you might not have the black to work with, in which case you can use Animantha. Otherwise, if you don't have this combo going on with your Heket, which is, again, pretty easily to do, being that you've got the Machina Wing Slash to bring it back, then you might not want to consider the Animantha. You could just go ahead and enter it. It's not that big of a deal. But the deck felt like it needed 5 Assassin level 3s, and I really only had access to 4 of those Kentokis. Kentoki does not Enter burn in this deck. You do not have souls. That being said, a level 3 that just gains Assassin is quite strong on its own and very good, so you'll still use it quite a bit. Plus, at worst, it's red Enter for your Center Elrig, which is excellent. Moving right along here, we've got a Phalaris as a one-of. Again, something that you might want to consider bringing back with Smash, but it's mostly there in order to be able to be a one-of that you can very quickly filter through. If your opponent has milled themselves out, then you can go ahead and kill them with the Phalaris. This is just a pretty overall good card that you can work with. Remember, you can't really play the Kentoki and the Phalaris in the same turn, but I don't think you'll have that issue. That's another reason why we run 2 Animanthia instead of a full 4 set of Kentoki, is because with this deck you can't go wild with Kentoki because you only have 1 black Elrig. You have the 3 Devil Stingers. A lot of the time you're going to be playing Devil Stinger and sacrificing it to itself, and then go ahead and play the cards that you drew that were better. Iresh is just a one-of. Again, there's not a great way to bring this back from your trash, but you need life bursts. Red-black isn't known for its fantastic life bursts that you can get. And then if we go into our spells section, we run 1 Nobunaga. It's kind of a spell. It basically vanishes 8,000 or less. You can give it Double Crush, which can win you some games. And a Mirage, which is, again, kind of a spell. You can give something negative 8,000 plus its black Enter, which we needed, and it has a pretty good life burst. This is another way that you can get things back from your trash. Again, you don't have a ton of ways, but this is one of them. And then Deafening Inferno is just a one of. You could probably swap things around to get more Deafening Infernos if you'd like. They're less powerful here than they were in the other deck because this isn't No Limit that we're playing in specifically team. But we needed some more red and we needed a life burst. This is a way to do it. I think it'll probably be one of the ones that you eventually filter out. But for now, perfectly reasonable to use it. That is our two Hirana decks. Let me know how you think about them in the comments down below. I'm actually pretty excited for both of them. I think they both function perfectly fine and are anywhere from A rank to B rank and are very suitable in your meta.